just make sure that you do have your microphones on. The red light should be on. There you go. You can turn it off if you don't want to talk, but just make sure you're talking. Okay, I think we are about ready to get started. Set. Okay, so it is 1:01 p.m. on Friday, May 15, 2026. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the City of Neptune Beach Police Officers of Retirement System Board of Trustees. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Austin Campy. Here. Heather Waddell.
Here.
Laura Lafferty.
Present.
And Frank Cashman. Cashman, yes, sir. Got it. So we have a quorum. Joe's on the go till 10. So we will move right into public comments. Comments. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move along. The next up is the approval of minutes for February 11, 2026. If anybody has any questions, I may want to answer those. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes for February 11th.
I'll just make a motion. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, moving straight into our consent agenda. And Frank, I think you may have seen this last time. If not, I'll just give you a quick explanation. So for the consent agenda, we mix three things together and just do one approval. So we do the invoices ratification, those ones that have been paid. If something hasn't gotten all the way through the system and gotten a signature yet, then I'll bring that to be signed at the meeting. And then the fund activity report is anyone who's exited the plan, such as a retirement or somebody who left before vesting and got a refund or drop or anything like that. Good. So if anybody has any questions about the consent agenda, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes through. And we're going to move straight into reports. And we have Mayor's additional John Tennessee.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So if you go to, sorry, I don't know what page it is, Troy, on the tablets, just this, my weird cover page, and then I'll go off my page numbers.
Okay, so the cover page is 21.
Okay, so we're on 21. All right, and then I'll just go to off my page numbers now. If you go to page 3, so this is the first time in a long time that I do not have a good report for y'all. You can see there on page 3 of my report that the S&P 500 was down over 4%. When bombs got dropped in March, the market took a dive, but it has recovered since, and I will update you on our returns since March 31st. But you'll see there that the blue, S&P 500 was down, international in the orange or yellow was down, even bonds were down. So the market definitely took a turn for the worst in the month of March. If you go to page 4, you can see there, I know I've told y'all that the large tech companies have been driving the market. Those are the red bars, and you can see there that they went down significantly, almost down 10% during this quarter, and it all happened in the month of March. If you go to page 13 of my book, here I'm showing you a 15.2 market value. But I'm happy to say that as of this morning, when I just pulled values, we're at 16.6 million. So we've gone up dramatically since the end of the quarter. You can see our pie charts on page 15 of my book. Again, we have a very simple portfolio here, but keeping it simple has been the way to go. And which is why our long-term numbers, despite this quarter, have been so strong. If you go to page 20 of my book, you can see there, as I mentioned, for this quarter, I do not have a good number for y'all. we were down almost 3%. But when I pulled values this morning and accounting for cash flow, this quarter we're up 10%. So if you add that to the fiscal year to date number, which is the second column, we're right around double digits, 10%. And it's going to be one of the highest, best performing plans with the next book that I show y'all. But on page 20 of my book, you can see there as we go to the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5, 7, all we rank very high relative to our peers, even the largest plans that I have. And we've done a great job. And when we have quarters like this, I'm glad it bounced back already. But every once in a while, we do have these negative quarters. If you go to page 21, you can see there that we have our U.S. stocks. We have Dana, J.P. Morgan, and the Vanguard. Then we have international there with American, Peartree, Transamerica, and then rounding it out with Dana fixed income on the bonds. And I will say that I know American in the middle there looks bad versus Peartree, but that is why we are diversified. And the report that you see next time from me when I'm there is going to be the exact opposite of all of this. So we've bounced back very significantly. So I know this report is not what we're used to seeing, but like I said, when bombs got dropped, the market went down. We're currently at 16.6 million, and your fiscal year to date is right around 10% right now. And looking to get through the summer and to 9/30 with a strong number, which I think will happen. So that is all I have. Unless there's any questions.
Thanks, John. We'll move right along to Lauren Bond.
Thank you.
Frank Kavachik, your attorney.
All right. Thank you, Troy. Good afternoon, everybody. My report will be short and sweet. Just reminders, there's no legislative update to bring to the board, but July 1st, everyone's Form 1 is due. Please make sure you get it filed. And then, Frank, did you file your Form 1 within 30 days of your appointment yet?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. And technically, you may have the question, do I have to file another one by July 1st of this year? Technically, if you go by the statute, it's two separate obligations. You have to file the Form 1 initially within 30 days of an appointment, and then every officer is supposed to file the Form 1 July 1st annually. But usually, if you file it like you just filed it this year, and it's going to be within the same calendar year and within 12 months of July 1st, the Commission on Ethics kind of looks at it as redundant if you were to just file the same Form 1 again that you just filed a couple months ago. So it's up to you. Like I said, with past practice, you'll probably be fine with having just filed this Form 1 and meeting the July 1st deadline. I've never seen it a situation where the Commission on Ethics came back and said you need to file another one even though you just filed one, because it's still the same reporting period. So I think it'll be okay. I just wanted to make you aware of it.
Are you sending it to us, Troy?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to them.
It should,
Whenever
you'll
everybody's
get it.
just gonna shoot it to everybody.
It'll be a link, and you do it electronically again, and it should repopulate everything that you filled out last year. So it should be a lot quicker unless you have a lot of changes.
I've got from the 3 meetings I had yesterday, I'm sending all of them too. So I'm just going to copy the link, paste it to all the boards, and send it out to everybody. And then I do a follow-up. I can actually go online and see who's filed. As we get closer to July, I'm going to go ahead and just do an e-check. So anybody who's on the naughty list, I'll just send you a quick email. Hey, make sure you get this done. So I know that follow-up sometime in mid-June. Okay.
Perfect.
Questions about the Form 1? Anything else, Brent?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sorry.
Okay, we'll move right down to new business, the trustee term extension. So I kind of pitched that to the board since it is very common in the industry now. The city was initially on board with it, and Brent did a ordinance. But after that was done, it was then kind of shut down by the city. So it's up to them. So even though the board wants it, this is one of those things that the city can say no, and they did. And it just is what it is. And I'm not going to bring it up again.
Do we know why?
No, I mean there was a statement just that it's not necessary. It's not really, it's not really an answer. It is what it is. So we will have 2-year terms, so just so you know. And then moving down into the summary plan description, that is due to expire shortly, and we do that.
Troy, real quick, sorry, back to that. I think Heather and I started at the same time. Was it midterm or so
Yeah,
are we on
you're both
cycles?
27. I don't have it on the top of my head, but you both will be the same exact day.
Okay, but
Yes.
it's expired based on your start date, not a calendar yearly term.
Yes, so it's based on, I think you guys took over a term, if I remember correctly. So if it's not too close to the term, you will continue that term each year. Yes, so if somebody leaves early and doesn't complete their term, and you take over, generally you will fill that term in unless it's 30 days before or something like that. That is kind of silly to, do something like that.
Thank you.
Yep, not a problem. So let's see. So the summary plan description, that's due every 2 years. I'm going to go ahead and just defer to Brent. Most boards, I don't really get an approval. I just get a consensus that you'd like your attorney to update the summary plan description. So if there's any discussion about that, that is something that we send to the state with the annual report. They request if it's not done every 2 years, by next year when it's time, they're going to ask us why. We have to actually give them a description of why it's not. We had ordinances we're waiting on. Like sometimes that really does happen. So what's the point of doing having your attorney do a summary plan description if we have a big ordinance that's really needs to be in there, that's close to getting finalized. So at this point, I don't think we have anything pending. So I would say, Brett, if you have no objection, then we'll get an approval from you to update the SPD by consensus.
Yeah, that's fine.
Anybody against that? Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and test that with Brent to get that to us. I'll work with him and make sure that he's got everything he needs for that as well. Let's see. So move straight down. Nothing for old business. Anybody has anything for that? Moving straight down to the staff reports. So the 2024-25 annual report. So the audited financials, I did check with the town, and we are moving in a good direction. Expected to be done before the end of July. Even though we're still a year behind, we're moving in a good direction. So as soon as they finish those, they'll start this year's, which technically are due September 30th. So we're going to be behind until we're not. And so those funds are going to be held until we catch up. So the goal is for me to just keep with the town and keep making sure that we have communication. Every time I've sent the town, they've sent me right back. So there's been good communication. That we're working on it. So at this point, I have a mid to late June expectation for the previous years.
I can't remember why they did not get it done in time originally.
No, that was before my time. So I've only been here for 2 years and 3 months. So at that point, it was already behind when I got here. So I'm not sure the initial, if there was a change in staffing, that's a lot of times what happens. So the point is where we are, and I do feel that they're trying to catch up and get it right, but it's not a fast process. It's got to be done right.
So we could assume that the September date will not be met.
No way.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way. So we're just hoping to get this one done by July 1st. That's the goal right now, and that's what I was assured that we would have done. So that's what we're doing. And as soon as that's done, I assume they're going to run right into starting the next one.
But you'll stay
Oh yeah.
good on the gas.
Oh, I'm going to. So I will constantly keep up in each meeting. I will give you an update since this is something that's important to the board.
If we, is there any opportunity, like what do we have in our arsenal to make sure that they actually do this?
At this point, the only way to catch up would be probably to hire an outside firm, and that's not something we can do. Like we don't tell the city what to do, At this
Maybe
point.
just an understanding of their own checks and balances for things that for requirements. Right? Is this a requirement or a nice to have? It's a requirement.
No, this requirement. So
Yeah.
you can't get your money from the state.
Right.
Right.
Right. So maybe just for us
So
to
that is,
understand.
or Brent can elaborate on that. The state annual report has to be done, where they hold those funds. If those funds get used by John, your financial, consultant, so there's a portion of that definitely hurts us. The city has to front that money for when it's so there's paid for the city too. This isn't just that we lose
Yeah, no, I mean, you summed it up. You know, the only other option is to do the audit independently to get things moving. But as Troy said, we don't really have any control over the city and what they're doing on their end to expedite and make sure. But yeah, that's the ramification is the withholding of the chapter money, as Troy
You're
said.
saying that it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars to have somebody else come in and audit. Is that right? Or do we know what that would be?
It's not cheap, I don't think. Yeah, it's not our purview to do. Yeah, it's the city's. So that would have to be the city wanting to do it.
So we're just stuck. We have no.
The checks in the mail.
You could independently retain your own auditor to perform the audit, but your city, as a lot of other plans do, you're allowed to. You know, if the city performs the audit and they audit the plan, then you submit it all together, and obviously it's a cost saving plan. So, you know, there's two options, but you know, hopefully the city can get on top of things and get it done because, like Troy said, it's the withholding and delay of getting the chapter money. The longer it takes, and you know, we have no idea what's going on within the city as to why an audit isn't getting done or things aren't getting done timely. If that's the case,
Is there a specific person that is responsible for this?
Yeah, I mean, there's just one person that I believe it's Mike. Is that correct?
it's usually the city finance directors that kind of oversee it.
So I'm glad I'm not saying anything bad because it's shit right now. Actually, we are caught. Okay, we're on the current roll. Finishing up the 2025 audit, which is not due until July 1st, 2026. Okay, so we are caught up. Okay, so that once that's done, if we get that before September 30th, then we should be still getting the money for this premium tax. Yes. Okay, so that was what. Okay, so I didn't understand that part. I thought we were still behind and still trying to play catch up. So then at that point, we would immediately start this current year. Yes. Well, we can't start 2026 until 2026. Okay, so we'll have to first. In January, we'll start the 26th. Okay, perfect. Okay,
And
so
what would your expectation be for having that done? Yeah.
that would be last week.
Okay.
Over the past 4 years, we've gone from being 2 to 3 years behind to now we're caught up. And it's been one after another. And that's due to the long tenured CFO retiring 7, 8 years ago. Steve Ranks, he retired, and they had 4 or 5 CFOs, one after another.
So what would you think probably for the time frame for the next one?
So we'll start in January and finish in May.
Okay, so we'll always be basically a year behind.
No, that's actually normal. So we try to get that in April. So we do your annual report and we send it to the state. So a lot of times we will send everything we have. The only thing that's left is the audited financials. So we usually send that our part to the state by I think it's April 30th, and then we will trickle in some audited financials through June. Usually we want to have everything to the state by June. That's the goal. And in my meetings now, I'm reporting most of my plans. Everything is already submitted. And so there's just a couple of my plans that still have audited financials out. So there are still some that do not have them done yet. So usually by the end of June, they're all done. And this way, they get report back to you mid-August is when we get our amount that we're getting from the state. So the first meeting after mid-August is when I report to you what you. But that's really our goal is we try to get the report sent by April 30th, and then with the caveat that the audited financials will follow.
Okay. Thank you for being here, Mike, and for answering the questions. That's been spanning.
Like I said, I've had great communication. I didn't know he was sitting behind me. So thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. The board really does want to stay up to date on things, and so that was very nice, to speak to them. Okay, so that is done. So now I'm going to move down to, if you want to go in your packet, and we're going to move down to page 77. I'm not sure if you needed some light reading, but I gave you some light reading. This is a program that came out with guidance from the Department of Labor initially in 2021 as far as cybersecurity guidance, and then it was updated in 2024. This program, the way that we came and voted to be involved in 6 months and 3 in the last 2 years. So one that we just bought did this Fox Point program. In the private sector, it's mandatory. In the public sector, it's not yet. What this is kind of a look under the hood at all of your vendors to kind of do a heat check to see if there's any cracks where their cybersecurity is not tight. So this is not something necessarily that we're looking to recommend every year, but we do think that this, at least an initial look, is a good idea for the board as a fiduciary. It is not, and having been through this multiple times now, multiple meetings and with the attorneys, there are big things to make sure that we let you know this is not required. This in no way, if you don't want to do this, is this going to show as you're not living up to your fiduciary responsibility. This is a program that we believe in, and we are actually part of it, so we have to get this whole thing done for us too. And in buying this other company who has worked with Fox Point for many years, they recommended it, and as we're coming along with them, they have background and history with it, and we just felt it was something that was a good program to roll out to our boards. So that's kind of where it's at. I will say I'm not an expert on it. We've only been doing this for 2 months now, but it's become very popular. What a lot of it's not a cheap program, but what our boss did is basically got with Fox Point and bought 100 of these plans basically, and got a discount for doing that. So basically, if you went to Fox Point for this, or the charge for this is $10,000. If you went to Fox Point directly, it would not be that price. So that is a full look under the hood. And if you look at the back slide, if you go to page, there's an example in there that kind of gives you. So if you go to page 81, and if you go all the way to page 85, so that's going to give you a sample of what you're going to see. And if you see something that's in the yellow or the red, that is an item that we're going to want to address with that vendor to say, listen, this appears to be a weakness that we think you should address. They do not have to do anything that we recommend, but you as a board have the ability to terminate and say, listen, we think this is something that should be addressed. If you don't want to, we may have to do something else. So that's basically what this is to do just a full deep dive to see if everything, most everybody obviously has a level of protection. This is to make sure that everybody has that level of protection. And if you get this report back and everybody is in the green, we probably wouldn't recommend you doing this again, even though cyber is changing very fast. We probably wouldn't recommend you doing this for another 2 or 3 years. This is just a first time. Make sure that everything is where it should be. So yes, you have cyber, you have fiduciary liability insurance and cyber liability, but that's when something's happened. The point of this is to shore it up before something happens.
And I don't expect you to know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it. Would we not have had a cyber component in any contracts that we would have entered into?
So there is some, and that's kind of the question that many of the boards are asking. It's a good question. So these companies all have their own policies and their own requirements, and based on whether they're public or private. This is for those that may have a policy but that aren't actually doing it. So that's kind of the point, is that there are companies that are not as professional as others. So they might not take this as serious. We're actually firms in multiple states and plan administrators in multiple states. We have everybody's social bank accounts and everything. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for cybersecurity. We have no business. If we can't protect people's information, we are going to lose all of our clients. So this is something that obviously we're nonstop investing in and researching and trying to keep up with. And like I said, when we purchased this firm, they had already had experience with it and thought that it was a very a good way to just make sure that what people should be doing that they don't do. That's kind of the way that I've heard explained. And we actually hired an attorney from this new company that actually is the one who rolls this out. she was supposed to Zoom today, but she had a family issue that happened, so she was supposed to be here to, to be part of it. You do not have to make a decision today. If you wanted to, great. If you don't, if you want to try to invite her back to the next one, she has, obviously experience with it because she did it with the other firm. But I just wanted to give you that. She was supposed to be here.
It'd be nice to maybe, and I don't know how y'all feel, but it'd be nice to understand what other plans have done similar to ours, maybe just a customer
Sure. I
testimony.
can give you the basic of this. I've heard this now 6 times, and we've done it like 25 different plans, and I believe like we have 14, I think, that have taken it.
Okay.
And most of them, like 3 of mine, have tabled it. We didn't have the pitch that we have now. We have a lot more information after hearing the question from the boards. As we've done that, we've kind of sharpened ourselves, so that's why this is the first one that I've done, because now I've heard multiple. Doug, our actuary, has presented 2 of them that I've been part of. Sierra, who you've met before, that's been here, very experienced in this industry. She just did 2 of them with me yesterday in front of Dina, and those both went great. So that's kind of the questions that we're getting is what exactly is this? Well, this is basically this company, Foxpoint, is not trying to dig in. They're not trying to hack these people. This is a survey that they're being given of things that this company has identified are weaknesses. And so if you give this, if we give you this, the form Foxpoint sends it as, they send it back, and then they put this into their system and they do the evaluation. And then at that point, they give you this, and then they will come here as well and do a presentation afterwards. So it's not that there's some company that you're never going to see. If you invest in them, they're going to invest in you. And so that's kind of part of it. And like I said, we do now have an attorney that we hired who has experience with this because we just thought number one, she has experience with the actuary side, but she has experience with Foxpoint. So that was why we thought to bring her on with most of the entire staff of this firm that we bought. We took all of them on as well. So we grown from 125 to 170 employees, just like that in the last, I think, 2 months. So very good additions to our company. But as far as those kind of questions go, I mean, there's not a whole much more to add, but I have no problem if you want to invite her back. She was definitely planning on being here today. I think we had sent her a link as well, just so that you guys can have as much information, as possible.
I think it's just more like, I mean, I know you're the money gal, that's your area of expertise, but for me, it's like cost benefit analysis. We're a small plan. Yes. $10,000 to us that's a very different conversation than a larger plan. But I don't want to be short-sighted. But
And it is tailored to the cost. That's the cheapest cost.
yeah,
So it goes 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. We have 25,000. We have like Hollywood Fire, which is it's a $190 million plan. So there's a big difference in the size of your plans. So this is because my friend Dino was higher because it's a much bigger plan. But it is based on that. Just so you know. So and it's not something that we're necessarily telling you that you should do every year. That's not what we're trying to say.
so how many vendors do we have that they would be assessing?
So it would be us, the attorney, your consultant, and all of your managers. All of the plan managers. So anybody that touches the plan, is going to have to go through this. So they're already working. You can ask Brett. He's been part of many of these presentations already. So, but if you want to table it and invite her back, I don't know what your schedule is, but I could send her a Teams message as soon as we get done here.
I'd prefer to table it because I do this partially for work. So I'd want to have my own questions.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. Go ahead and set up the next meeting.
Get a motion if you're going to table it. Just get a motion to table it to the next meeting.
Motion to table.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Table. Opposed? Okay, thank you. We will go ahead and table that to the next meeting. Move straight down into the educational opportunities. So I've already sent you this before, the PBTA Summer Conference, annual conference. Chris is June 28th. If anybody hasn't signed up for that, the hotel is already full. That's why I bring it to you the quarter before. Yeah, this one, the summer one, is very, very, that's why I bring it to you way early. There's still openings as far as being able to go there, but there's now an overflow hotel, I believe, that they're using. So if you still want to go, please let me know. I will get you signed up right away. And then the next one is, I did this one plenty early too, just so you can play it. That's the September 27th through the 30th. Okay. And we do have a survey that needs to be filled out. If any of you have done it already, it's not that difficult, but it's something we have to get you to do. We have a QR code that I can send you an email. You just scan it, and there's just a few things we have to get answered before we register. So just let me know ahead of time if you want to do that September one. Usually they start opening booking about 2 months ahead. So I will be plenty ahead with holders. And then there is also a free school that comes up every year. I believe it's in November. That is great for new trustees. I think I had spoken to you guys about that before. So that one will be on the next agenda. Okay, and that one is free. It was in Daytona Beach Shores, the last one next to where I live. The last 2 years, I went to one of them. It was great. The first day is really, really good. I mean, you've got all these different people, from attorneys to financial consultants, and they're just going over what their responsibility is, what your responsibility is, what you can ask them, what you can expect of them. So good, good information. And I'll have that on the next agenda. Any questions about training schools or anything like that? Okay, we will go straight down into trustee reports, discussion, and action. This is where you guys can speak amongst yourselves and talk about things that you can't because the sun's shining from the outside of here. Anything for discussion?
I just want to clarify back to the cyber conversation. Are we able, so Heather and you and I were able to do a little bit of independent work, thought, pull together questions, etc. Are we able to speak directly to each other?
Not if it's something that's going to be discussed later in the meeting. So you can do your own independent thing if you want to send me something for questions eventually, but not, Brent can elaborate, but I don't believe that if it's something we're going to discuss here, that you guys can discuss outside.
You're spot on with that, Troy. Couldn't have said it better.
But I do understand your reasoning for doing that. It would make sense to be able to collaborate, but because it has to be in the light of day and it's public, it has to be done in public.
Just wanted to pass you guys. So I'll go and do my little work and with my questions, and I'll send those to you.
Yes. And that is another question people have asked. There isn't anybody else that we know that does anything like what FoxPoint does. So that was what the board asked yesterday before they approved it. Is that, is somebody else do this? Should we do our due diligence? We gave them the option. Yes, you don't have to do this. This is an optional program, and we're not, pushing you to do this. We're just suggesting that we think it's a good idea. And so that was the question they asked. Is there another company? We don't know one that does what FoxPoint does. So you may uncover one, but
I think it's more of just kind of digesting,
Sure.
doing a little bit, and just.
and that's why I like this board, because you do things intelligently and at the timing, the way that you think it should be done. And we're never going to push you to do something, no matter what it is. If you want to table something, we're going to table it. I mean, we're going to give you time to look into it.
Thank you.
Sure.
On the exterior, I think it's a good idea just to get a base on it.
Sure.
I think we do need to do our due diligence and make sure
Absolutely.
that we're getting our money's worth.
Yeah, and you're, like I said, as you're doing things, feel free to send me something, ask me a question. I can forward it to Kate, the attorney, if it's something that, her goal is to help the boards understand this. And so she's going to, and actually physically going to as many of these as she can. But she's only one person. We have 120 something plans. So, we've hired her and thrown her into what she wants to make it. And so even if it's just Zooming, we're going to look at her.
Laura, you say you do this in your. I do this as part of my job. I am not the expert in this, but this is something that I have to do in the business that I do. Yeah.
Right, so that's perfect. Yeah. So just, something, you may learn something new, and you may bring something to us that we might learn. Okay, so if nothing else for trustee discussion, next meeting is going to